how were you thinking when you were in grade 10, grade 11, or around grade 12 when we met?
Honestly, I wanted to play hockey. So I was very much into understanding what it took to be a disciplined athlete. People talk about motivation and all these other aspects that are great boosters, but motivation is not what's going to keep you going. It's going to be discipline. I'm working 18 hours a day for something that hasn't even started yet. I don't even know if it's going to be successful. This is the biggest risk I've taken in my life. One of the script writers, Javed Akhtar, he said, life is like a movie. I have made a conscious effort within my restaurants, specific, each brand, whatever we do. I want to make sure our kitchens are inviting, they're fun, the atmosphere, the frequency, the culture.
Do you feel that once you started to apply this emotion, it actually made you feel even better about yourself?
100%.
Welcome to the Health to Wealth podcast. My name is Pranav Gakhar and I have a very special guest with me today. His name is Raaziq Bhimani. He's one of my close friends for a very long time and he's the founder and owner of Buddha Burger. Raaziq, I'm very thankful you're here today and I want to learn a lot from you.
Thanks so much, Brav. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for calling me on.
Absolutely. Raaziq, you're somebody I've followed your journey for a very long time. I think we met when we were just going into university, and what I remember from my earliest memories is we connected over a movie which was called Guru. If you remember, we were in the dining room. And from there, one of the things that I picked up immediately about you with our friendship was we both had a passion, and especially your passion about the food industry. Today, you own a successful franchise which is called Buddha Burger. You started it 3 years ago, and now, just under 3 years, you've grown into 3 locations. You have over 30 employees, and all of your hard work is now paying off. So, Raaziq, today I want to follow your journey right from the beginning, and I want to understand what were some barriers you dealt with, what were some successes you had as you were growing up, and what brought you here. So, first of all, thank you once again for being here.
Thank you, Ben. It's nice that you mentioned Guru. I haven't thought about that movie in our conversation in so long, so it just brought me right back to it. I feel like we're both very similar in that sense. The passion and, being in different industries, but having that same drive. That's always been something that you and I have always connected on. And what I love about that is it's so difficult to find people like that, especially in today's day and age. The vibe, the frequency, whenever you connect with people like that is amazing. And I feel like, being blessed with meeting people like that throughout your journey, which I have, is very helpful. It's not specifically certain people that will help you out in a very direct manner within your industry. Like, for example, yourself, your family's always helped. And just conversations, even conversations like this, and we start from one end and we end up 3 hours later, late night, and we're just continuing, and it gets from something so technical to something so spiritual. So that's always been fun, and that keeps your mind going all the time. In terms of just the whole journey, just like everybody's journey is always a roller coaster. So I've had my ups, I've had my downs, but I feel like we've just started, moving from Toronto and going into Austin. I feel like we have just, dipped our toe into the water with Buddha Burger. I want to create a hospitality group there, and not just Austin, but I want to grow it within North America and maybe even beyond that.
What does a hospitality group mean?
I keep saying hospitality group now is because it's not just going to be Buddha Burger. It's going to be multiple brands, and I don't want to confine myself in just doing a specific kind of food, because I see a shift happening within again, I'm going to call it the hospitality industry, not just restaurants, because restaurants, have for the longest time, yes, you will have your restaurants that are just serving you food. And there's some places that have fantastic food, and that's what they're known for. You will not go there for their service, you will not go there for their seating or their ambiance, but you will go there because they have phenomenal food. And those restaurants, I feel, have been running for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. In India, there's some of those restaurants that have been over 100 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I want to touch on the ambience part you said, and the experience. So you're saying the industry has now shifted from it being just about the food or just about a really cool looking restaurant to now the whole 360 experience that they're getting. Right? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So now, before, I would say maybe 40, 50 years ago, the restaurant industry throughout the world was such that you found a good restaurant, they were consistent, and you would go there and you would see restaurants last a lot longer. Now, there's so much variety that people want, even though you like a restaurant, people want to go to different ones. You want to experience different things. That, oh, this restaurant was a 10 out of 10, but that's okay. I still want to try the next one and then the next one. And people just want different experiences that, hey, from, feature walls where people take photos. And there's things that I think about, that aromas. When you step into a fine dining restaurant, what's the sentiment they use?
I totally agree. You know, this is something that I noticed in when I went to Delhi, India, one of the hotels I went into, and I always remember that smell, and it's one of the things I look forward to every time I go. But Raaziq, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit, and I want to understand. Today, your business is growing. You're successful. You've made, your parents proud. But how were you thinking when you were in grade 10, grade 11, or around grade 12 when we met?
Yeah.
What was your state of mind like towards entrepreneurship and just how you thought the world would be responding to you?
Yeah. I feel like I was more philosophical at that time when we had the conversations.
Sure.
At grade 10, grade 12, honestly, I wanted to play hockey. So I was very much into understanding what it took to be a disciplined athlete. I know at that time, I was probably eating a lot better than I am now. So much more disciplined with my eating habits.
What do you mean by that?
Fast food, nothing. Like, you could put fries, and I still haven't eaten in probably over 18, 20 years now.
You're missing out.
Yeah. I probably am. I gotta get back to it. There's a magic about there. So, but yeah, I at that time, I would not eat rather than eat anything that I felt would harm my body. And I said, no, I'm only eating clean. I'm making sure it's like protein. I was playing goal. I was a goalie, and so they would be okay with carbs, but you would find, the complex carbs. I feel like I'm getting into the nutritionist side,
Hey,
but just like sweet potatoes and not doing just the white wheat and just basic stuff.
And what kind of state of mind did you have? Like, how did you used to think about being a professional or a business owner at that time?
At that time, I had a lot of opinions, and it would always be very black and white in my mind. Today, if you ask me, there's a lot of gray. I'm more empathetic. I understand things more. Back then, what I would think that I was very disciplined. I was very focused, very laser focused. And you want to be successful. That's where you and I connected. That, hey, there is no other option. We're being successful. That's how our story will be written.
Right.
And then I would look at other people and I would say, you're not focused enough. You're getting distracted. And I would say that's wrong. And then
And to today?
to today, after doing Buddha Burger, that was very intense. Doing the opening. I'll tell you why, because working here with the restaurants here and even the companies that I've worked at here, I've done new store openings. We've opened new brands. I know what to do, but I had the team to do it.
Right.
I just had to manage them. This was me knowing what to do, but I had to do everything myself, from photography to menu development to setting up the IT side of it, the website, the design, everything. I was just the one man to do everything because, you don't have the money to hire anybody. And also was in a different city. So that nervousness comes in that, hey, it's a different city, different people. I've seen brands, Canadian brands, that have gone into specifically Texas and that have failed, even after putting up 7, 8 locations.
So how did you deal with this feeling and that the beginning stages of your business? Like, what were some ways you helped yourself mentally, spiritually, or did you revert back to your healthy eating? Was that a part of it?
To be honest, my eating got really bad. It's really bad. I was eating late nights. There was days I would not eat just because I was so focused. And the nervousness was there, but you know what? At the end of the day, I always put it back in my mind. I was mentally strong, where I said, I'll figure it out. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? It's not gonna work. Okay, big deal. I'll try it again. I'll do something different. I'll learn from this. What mistakes did I make? What made me fail? And we'll do it again. I'm not gonna stop.
And that thought alone was enough for you to go back again to work, again to work, and again to work?
Absolutely. My passion gets driven by getting the opportunity to serve people.
Hey,
That's
beautiful.
that's what I like doing. That hey, I have a beautiful opportunity that I get to serve somebody every day. Every day I get to do it, and that's what I love. And but doing all of this, it's mentally straining. You have to be mentally tough. You have to be willing to give up a lot. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. And then that's when I look back today and I go, I looked at the people who wanted to do the 9 to 5s, that wanted to work the corporate jobs for until they were 65 and get a retirement, have a family, get their weekends off, go on vacations. And today, after doing Budaberg, I look back and I say, that's not wrong. You want to do that? That's good. Back then, I would say that's not the right way to live. But today, I say, no, that's totally fine. That is another way to live. This is how I'm living. Not everybody chooses this, just like I don't want to choose the other one, but I respect it now.
So what sparked this state of mind of, as you said, empathy and, understanding another perspective and really seeing why people choose to live the way they choose to live? What was the shifting point or what helped you?
Because I looked at the things that I was starting to sacrifice, and you question it sometimes, that is it worth it?
So can you talk a little bit about that feeling? What is that feeling?
That is such a complex feeling. I don't even know if there's a word for it.
Right.
But yeah, you would just be questioning. You'd be outside. I mean, I can tell you there's times where you're just walking. It's late night. It's 2 a.m. You're going for a walk. It's pitch black, and then your mind is just running that I'm working 18 hours a day for something that hasn't even started yet. I don't even know if it's going to be successful. This is the biggest risk I've taken in my life. Is it worth it? I could be making 6 figures. I could have been taking the investment bank route, which is also intense, or I could have continued to work corporate within the restaurant industry, still serving. I felt at the end of that question that no, I would not get that fulfillment. I always had this thing where people said, "Oh, you can climb the corporate ladder." I said, you know what? I'd rather build my own step stool than climb somebody else's ladder. And so that I feel like maybe that's just how the genes have been inside of me, because my parents and especially my dad's side has always been businesses.
But now you see that reversing a little bit because you understand that some people choose to live a scheduled life where everything is, you go to work, you come home, you spend time with your family, you go to bed, you get your rest, and then you're back at work, and hopefully you enjoy what you do. So do you feel now that thought process has shifted a little bit where it's not so much about following a set keen or a set path ahead?
Yeah, I take things as they come now. A lot of times we plan, and I feel like that's worked for me. You plan so many things, and one shift, one pebble you step on differently, and the road is completely different. Had you asked me, hey, do you want to go to Austin? You asked me 5-6 years ago, are you going to go to the US or you want to go to Austin? No. But things happened. COVID happened. The industry in Toronto was really tight. In Texas, it was as if COVID didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so an opportunity came up and things lined up. And, the one thing I still do today, and, God willing it, I continue to do this, is the risk-taking ability just to say, let's do it. And that's what happened. The opportunity came up, hey, go to Austin. Can we start this? And I thought about it and I said, why not? Let's do it. It'd be a good experience. I feel that there have been certain things in my life. I'll be specific, playing hockey. I feel like I didn't put as much effort as I should have.
Oh, it's kind of like don't want to say it this way, but like an unfulfilled dream.
Yeah, absolutely. That you could definitely say that. That's definitely there. And so the bill that you pay for not doing something, the bill you pay for regret, is far more expensive than what you see in, doing something and failing. Or that fear that, hey, will I fail? That's fine. That's fine. At least you got to do it.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that, you don't get to do. And at the end of your life, I don't want to be that person that says, I didn't get to do this, I didn't get to do that. For some people, it's traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about some people. I have a cousin, him and his wife travel all the time. And they'll travel every couple of months because that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And to each their own.
Yeah.
I love being in a restaurant, One of the things, you mentioned, hey, what do I do spiritually? I know we talked about this a little
I'll
bit.
touch on religion and prayer as well, but yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
So for me, something apart from religion and prayer is there are times where I feel like a little down, dark, and I'm not, that energy isn't the same, that frequency isn't the same, and I catch myself and I go, something's off. And the one thing that's always helped me is getting back into the kitchen and cooking.
Yeah, so being in the state or a place which makes you the happiest.
And that's it. And it's not even for customers or client, even for my staff. I cook for my staff once a week.
Hey.
I'm away from the restaurants now. I'll get messages from my staff on Saturday, because every Saturday they'll cook and they'll say, hey, when you coming back? And they'll say one of the other guys cooked, it wasn't good, it was too watery. So
South Asian food.
this is South Asian food.
Oh,
So
nice.
they get spoiled. They're always saying that, the boss hasn't cooked in a while, so they'll message me about it. So it's fun though. It's fun, and I'm glad I have that. I didn't realize it until recently. I used to do it kind of when I was working corporate. So corporate, I was in the restaurant industry. Technically, I should be working out of the office. And there were times where I just wasn't enjoying it, and where I was enjoying it was being behind the line with the managers, with the staff, with the supervisors, with the cashiers. That was fun for me. So I would always look forward to that. And my routine became that during operating hours, I would be in the restaurants.
Right.
And then I'd do my admin stuff and my office stuff late nights. You and I are both very late night kind of people. That's where we thrive.
Right.
So that's just how it's always been. But then I realized that, hey, being in the kitchens is what energizes me.
Got it. So I want to ask you then, you went through a phase where obviously in the beginning, like you said, there were days or nights where you thought this would happen or will this happen or XYZ. So what are some tips you would share with somebody who's, going on their own journey, not necessarily restaurants or even traveling across to another country like you did, but what would be some tips you would share that would bring the person back to that state of, okay, I'm ready to go forward. Oh, I'm going to go forward. Oh, I'm going to go forward now.
Make sure you follow through. That's the biggest thing.
What does that mean?
So what that means is when you're set out to do something, write yourself a contract, sign that contract. And that's non-negotiable. You signed a contract, you're going to see it through. So if 50% or 60% of the way you feel like, I don't know if it's worth it, I don't know what's going to happen, I don't know what the result is, you don't get to that. You've signed a contract.
And is that a public contract that you tell people about, or this is something personal to yourself?
I'm the kind of person that would say keep it personal.
Unless you're on the Health to Wealth podcast.
And so exactly, like once you're on the Health to Wealth podcast. But you draft up an actual contract, what your expectations are as a third person, that, hey, if it's Raaziq or it's Pranav, that this is what I'm expecting, this is what you're going to do, as if you were hiring an employee. And I say this, I say this to my staff, especially my managers. They find that, he's the founder, he's the owner, he's the CEO, and he's got to do certain things. And I tell them, I said, this whole aura that you see, or whatever that you see as an owner, that is an image, okay? I am an employee of Buddha Burger. I'm an employee of Raaziq Bhimani.
Right.
I'm working for that. That image is the owner.
And you communicate that vision and that state of mind and that truth to your force.
Yes, absolutely. I say, hey, I'm an employee just like you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are both on the same level. We're both working for this, and we're working for this company.
Mm-hmm.
So don't feel like I'm a level higher or any of that. No, we're working towards the same goal. You and I both want the same thing.
Absolutely. Now, Raaziq, let's just go towards the spiritual side. And I know you like to pray. You have some routines that you follow. So where does God and the higher power and I guess that voice fit into this journey and how you conduct yourself every day?
I feel like faith, that's the biggest word that I could share with anybody
So did you sign that contract before you had the faith or after?
I've always had the faith. I've always had the faith that things will work out. And the faith gets stronger every year. It's insane. And every time I feel like, I have a strong faith. And then the next year I'm going, wow, it's even stronger. Like,
Like, what do you think is contributing to that?
I'll give you small examples. So there's certain things that I have done, small experiences within the restaurant industry. And so small odd jobs, little jobs I'll do. And someone could say that, did you really learn anything? What are you going to apply that? And then when I did Buddha Burger, maybe 4 years or 5 years after that experience, and one situation came up where I used that and I said that experience helped me here.
So it's everything's happening for a reason.
Exactly.
Ah, I see what you mean.
And so then that just brings faith that, hey, if something didn't work out, or you feel like this was a waste of my time, or I chose the wrong thing, it doesn't work that way. There's a beautiful quote. I know you and I watch a lot of movies, and one of the script writers, Javed Akhtar, he said, life is like a movie. And if you're gonna say that, I wish I could take out this scene or this part, you can't do it. Because one way or another, either it's building character development or it's building towards a certain situation in the story that's gonna happen later. You can't just pick out things.
Right.
And so
In the movie.
Exactly. So you need to understand that to make a beautiful movie, you need those parts. And you might not understand it now, but it will make sense later on.
Well, that's amazing. That's actually very well put as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if you're pursuing something, by the time you reach the end,
Yeah.
you will have seen the love scenes and the horror scenes
Yes.
of the movie.
Absolutely. The whole action, masala, everything that you get to see.
So just to kind of close things off, if you were to give a piece of advice and a very targeted, simple advice to somebody who's now about to write that contract with themselves,
Yeah.
what's one thing they should definitely be doing or have access to or should not take for granted?
Set achievable goals, be hard on yourself, and stay disciplined. So set achievable goals in the sense that, don't make them too easy. And that's where that ties into be hard on yourself. But when you're setting the goals and the expectations, make them achievable, but make them challenging. That, hey, this is achievable and this is going to push me. So that those two tie hand in hand. And then the last one is stay disciplined. And discipline is, people don't give discipline the respect that it deserves. People talk about motivation and all these other aspects that are great boosters, but motivation is not what's going to keep you going. It's going to be discipline.
Before you reach that stage where you can set these disciplines and
Yeah.
what you're going to do, what is there anything you feel has to occur first for these things to come out of it? Or you just at any given moment know what you need to do and you can do it right away?
I feel you can do it right away. I feel like, but you need to be mentally strong. You need to be, you know what? We've spoken about this. You need to be happy and content with the difficulty and the result and consequences of failing. You have to be okay with that. So that means you have to have so much passion for something that I'm okay with this either failing or not working out. I'm happy and content with just the fact that I get to do this, at least do the attempt. I get to climb the mountain. I don't care about reaching the peak. I just love climbing.
So it's the perspective and the faith that you're going to climb.
Yes. And you have to have that mindset in order to start the contract and sign it. Because if you're just going to sign it because I see the $500 billion return, that's the possibility, and that's what I'm going to go towards, then it's not going to work. Then you're looking at the result and you're going to have a terrible time and not understanding the journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So that's the advice I would give to the younger people and even older people who are starting out and want to do something. And it doesn't have to be something for yourself, even within your job. You want to climb within there, you want to do something, you're contributing. I have a cousin who she works on the healthcare side, and she just loves doing what she does, and she wants to, one day contribute to, things like COVID coming up, to be able to prevent that and to be able to detect it coming up. This is beautiful. You don't have to own a business to do that. You just have to be passionate in what it is that you do, and you find a purpose, which I feel is lacking in some of the newer generations.
They are a little bit different for sure, but I find them to be much more quicker
Yeah.
across the board with everything.
But you feel quick is also better.
So they can attach and detach very fast.
Right.
Quickly like something, let it go. Quickly learn something, forget about it. And
So there's pros and cons to
definitely is, and I think the future generations will operate very differently, and especially they're not going to be using the same parts of the mind
Yeah.
we and the people before us used, which was actually thinking and critically thinking.
Yeah.
Not to say that their genius is any smaller. It probably be even more, but they're different. I feel in that way.
Would you want to know? So this is another question. Would you want to know more things, but the overview of it, and then maybe it comes out of your mind very easily, or would you rather be concentrated on a few things and be a master at it?
Definitely the latter.
The latter, right? Because I see even in today's age, like I'll touch on shows, movies. When we used to watch shows on cable, on TV, when there was commercials and there was the one episode once a week, those shows are still in your mind.
Jersey Shore.
Right? They're still in your mind, those episodes and everything. Today, you'll watch 10 TV shows within a few months. And if you ask about any of them, you go, oh man, the new season came out, but what happened on the previous season? I don't know what happened. And it's because, you're binge watching, you're just blowing through all of the episodes. You're watching the whole season in a weekend.
I had a conversation with somebody about this, and we were talking about going in a car. If you're going, I think, under the speed of 30, that's when your brain, your eyes can process what's going on. Anything faster than that, you're really not even processing.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing has happened with your example of shows, because before we would have to wait. It's going to come next Friday. Instead, now you have the option to process it all within a period of 24 hours if you want to do a whole season.
Yeah.
So the brain is not supposed to make connections that fast. We haven't evolved like that. But the generation coming is.
You think so? You think they pick it up and then they store it?
And they leave it equally as fast. I think they're very versatile and flexible with being aligned, being fully engrossed in something. But it's just, I feel this generation, I empathize with them, sympathize with them, that they're really prone to distraction from any angle they look at. From going to school when they're opening their laptops and their phones, we didn't have that. There's no way. To going home, to being on the bus, or people socializing with their phones out.
That's the biggest.
FaceTiming, all these things add value, and they're really good. But I feel like these are separating us, how we grew up, and even the people before us to where the world is.
I feel your mind functions differently. I feel today, like you said, they detach so quickly. But if you detach and you let go of things so quickly, how will you use that experience to help you as you get older? Like, one of the things I admire about you is you're very minimal on social media, on using your phone. And that's why I feel like you and I have such deep conversations. Like, our phones are, I don't even know where they are whenever we start, and whenever we're hanging out. But that's the beautiful thing. And those are, if you ask me about interactions, socially, friends, even professionally, having any kind of talks, is usually the conversations you and I have that stick with me. And I'm not gonna say it's because of that reason, but I feel like it adds a component because our brains process that way.
And we're talking at a pace which is
Yes.
can be digestible by the other. But another thing I want to add for the generation younger is and this is like really pinpointing something, but I do want to say it. Their egos aren't as large because they don't get as attached, nor do they get hurt.
Yeah.
Expectations from the world is 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 not as emotionally uh, it's not an emotional feeling, but rather now an instinct.
So you mentioned the younger generation and their state of mind and how they approach things very differently from our generation and even the generation before. And that's been such a learning curve for me because I have the younger generation. And so that's I'm a firm believer in that. I love hiring younger because I feel the younger generation, like you said, is quicker, sharper, they're more in tuned, they can adapt a lot faster. And that's where, the restaurant industry is going. The hardest thing is to keep them motivated and to make them feel like, hey, this is an industry where you can create a career. In order for that to happen also is for me to be a good role model. And one of the things that I have made a shift with is changing my routine, my lifestyle, especially what I'm eating, when I'm eating it. So I've gotten a lot more disciplined. I feel like I did a great job earlier on before I started Buddha Burger, and I feel like I kind of fell off. I would eat late night, I would eat heavy, greasy, oily foods, and our culture is prone to that kind of food. But no, I've gotten a lot better, eating a lot cleaner now. And it's been great. Your mind gets cleared up too. You get, and I truly believe that. I personally, for my body, I don't eat 3, 4, 5 meals a day. For me, it's generally 1 to 2. It keeps my mind a lot clearer. But again, I feel like people have to figure out what works for them.
And as you're optimizing your combining it with discipline, optimizing what you're putting in your body and the meals that you're eating, you feel like that's bringing an effect in the workforce, and your employees are noticing a new energy and a new vibration, if you will.
It's so important. So I feel like I'm gonna be giving out secrets of my company here, but
Accordingly.
so I have made sure, because I've worked in so many kitchens, and one of the traits about kitchens is it's a lot of people feel that it's so negative and there's so much down that's happening, and because of the intensity, you know, um, I have made a conscious effort within my restaurants, specific each brand, whatever we do. I want to make sure our kitchens are inviting, they're fun, the atmosphere, the frequency, the culture. And to be honest, anytime I felt that a certain individual um, does not match that frequency, or they're bringing it down, they're a bad apple in the bushel, I get rid of them. And that's the one thing a lot of restaurant owners are fearful of, that, man, it's so hard to find staff. What happens if I get rid of them? Get rid of them. It's like a cancer.
But I just based on what you just said, it's kind of like doing a full circle now. How you said from the beginning of the conversation, the restaurant needs to be now a full 360 experience for the customer to come in and enjoy it. And same with the workforce, where you got to be accommodating, not just with a good pay or here's your well organized kitchen. It's going to be the boss, the employees themselves, the energy of the office, and all these things now contribute.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if, as a whole, you to be successful in society, you need to be the full package, if you will.
Yeah.
That's a very strong word, but somebody who's well rounded to operate in society across the dimension.
Yes. And it's just like if you as a person come in, you're well rounded, you have every aspect, you bring a positive energy, you're now emitting that. And now if you're with like-minded individuals, I'm sure you saw this, and I've seen this a few times, where there's some study, I don't know if it's true or not, but they said that if you work within a certain foot range of a highly functioning individual, your performance, or a high performing individual, your performance also increases. And if you're working in the vicinity of a low performing individual, that also impacts you negatively.
I could be wrong about this, but it's called mirror neurons. So
It's amazing.
when you're around, they start operate the two sets start operating in conjunction, and that conjunction in certain books is called a mastermind, where people are connected into building one thing. So that thought alone versus four combined turns into an amplified version, which gets into the universe, manifests.
Yes.
XYZ faster. Mr. Ford was one of the greatest examples of this, where he could source the best of the best people to do the job, to get the job done. He can build the company in such a way that these, in the presence of these 10 leaders who are specialists, they operate fine, they operate well. He himself is not doing any of the tasks, but is aware of how everything works. And that mastermind is what brought Ford into every home almost today.
He was a revolutionary leader, you know, and leadership changes throughout decades, but he's really good. There's a lot of things to learn from him, and you know, other leaders in the past. You know, Steve Jobs is one of them. Certain things might not work today, but it's always great to see what made them successful. Maybe not the result or a specific thing that they did, but the approach that they took. What was their mindset? You know, that's the biggest, that's what you actually want to learn.
Do you see empathy being a huge part of successful people's mindset?
Yes,
Yes.
I do. I do. And I've become, I'm telling you, empathy has probably been my most improved characteristic personally over the last 6 to 7 years. Understanding the other individual, because then I'm all about, like I said, I'm serving people. So it's not just my guests, it's also my staff, my team, the people around me, my friends, my family. And when you understand their perspective, it's huge. It's huge. And I'll give you an example. I have a cousin, and she's, you know, she works in the healthcare industry, and I would always push her, hey, buy a house. You know, buy a house. It's an investment, and look at it from that perspective. And then over the years, I've learned, and she never bought it. And I said, this doesn't make sense. Why are you not doing it? But today I look at it and I say, that's just the lifestyle they want. They don't want the headache of maintaining it. They don't want the headache of having a debt on their books. Now, when you're paying a mortgage, that's the minimum that you're paying. When you're paying rent, that's the maximum that you're paying.
Right.
And so because of a lot of factors, and so now today I understand, I say, hey, that's totally fine. You don't have to have the mindset of a business person or an investor and like always looking at how are you getting an ROI on it. You have your other ROI, which is non-monetary. So empathy is very, very, very important.
And do you feel that once you started to apply this emotion, it actually made you feel even better about yourself?
100%. It got me in tune with my emotion. I got more control. I got so much more control. You know, step number one is understanding the frequency you emit.
Right.
I feel step number two is learning how to change your frequency. I'm not a master at it, but I'm a kitchen guy. At the end of the day, I'm a kitchen guy. I grew up with chefs, you know, whipping a frying pan at your head. And that's the culture that was there back then. You know, you can't do that today.
No.
And but and that's a part of who you become. You know, you're intense in the kitchen like that.
So how is your frequency changing? Like, what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is now, you know, sometimes you're in an off mood, and you know, you would see chefs, they would have a bad mood and they would take it out, and when they would come in today, and I used to be like that too, but today now, even if you know something's happened outside of work, but I'm walking into the kitchen, 30 seconds before I open that door, I have reset myself, understanding that, hey, I need to bring in a positive energy and a positive frequency, which I need to emit to my staff. My staff feed off of me.
Amazing. So it's almost like you know that they will also be, they're not going to necessarily be empathizing with you. They're only going to experience what you're experiencing. So you'd rather project the emotion, which aligns with the contract again, once more.
Absolutely. And I've seen, you know, some of the staff are having a bad day, and I come in, and some of the staff have told me, they say, you know, sometimes we're waiting for you to walk in because like, it just takes our mind off of whatever's been bothering us. And that makes me feel good. Because to me, I feel like, hey, that's the biggest compliment you could get, to be able to make that big of an impact on somebody's life.
Totally agree. Being around people and actually like being around them.
Yeah.
Like being around them is a whole different conversation, and that is a huge compliment. But you know, you are that way. So
I
that's
appreciate
why
it,
we've
man.
been friends, and we will continue to be. And you will let me have all the Buddha burgers in return.
Yes. You can say all of us.
Well, Raaziq, it's been a true pleasure. We've talked about this, of doing this one day, and
Yes.
now you're finally here, and
Yeah.
we've talked about a lot of things. I am very thankful to you. Say thankful to your family as well. Your family, your parents have been instrumental in our creation as a company, as a brand that we are today. And I value friendships like this, and I continue. Well,
No, likewise, brother. I mean, your family has been instrumental just as much, if not more, with us. And, this friendship's gonna stay forever. So I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, bro.
so thank you for tuning in to the Health to Wealth podcast. You just had a great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.